Okay, here we are up in the studio. And usually I paint on panels like this. They're 5 3/4 by 7. Since you may not have a panel like that, you can also paint on 1/4 inch plywood or 1/2 inch plywood. And you can even paint on cardboard. So that's what we're going to do now. We'll put that up on the easel. And we're just focusing on mixing some paint, just kind of getting used to painting. I have all of these colors listed in the description below. And we're just gonna start with a white. So we're painting nothing. We have nothing in mind, but we'll just see what happens. You can call this like a free writing exercise if you want. But it's basically just to get comfortable with the idea of mixing color and putting some color down. I'm just going to call it the canvas just because that makes sense, but it's actually a piece of cardboard. So we've got a lighter green here, and we'll pick that up and just put it on the canvas. Well, that makes it a little bit harder. Maybe I want to stick this here. Actually, I think I'll turn the studio lights on. I was trying to paint with just the natural light coming in the window, but maybe it's a little dark. So now I'll go back down to the palette, mix up a little yellow, use that same green. And again, actually I'm going to grab a little paint thinner to help the paint move around a little bit more. I'll go back up to the canvas here. Wow. Now I know why I paint on those boards. They kind of stick around a little bit better. Now maybe something more in the red family. And I'll grab a little bit of this cobalt blue. And we'll put that on the canvas. So we're just making notes of color, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll just go with a blue now. Maybe a little bit of this white. And we'll add a little of the raw umber. And see what that does. Let's go back down to the palette, grab some of this yellow. I think this paint is from last week, so it's not very pliable. Putting a little white in there to soften it up. And put that on the canvas. the cardboard is sucking the paint in, so it's not, it's a much different texture than, say, a primed canvas. Even though this is primed, it's still pulling the oil from the paint, so it's kind of drying faster. I wonder what would happen if we put some blacks in here. So maybe we'll just come down to the palette, take this, and put that right on the canvas. So it's kind of fun to just do something like this, no pressure, who knows what's going to happen. You can always paint over it. So I think I'm going to grab some of the red right out of the tube. I think I might move this easel because it feels like the colors aren't really reading on the camera. Maybe you need to get away from that window a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. So now I'm going to just grab a big piece of white and pull that all around the border of the painting. So we'll see what that looks like. I'm gonna stick it in a frame and we'll see what happens. Here's this big gold frame that I always use. I'm using a piece of tape to try to hold that panel in. And I'll just drop this in here. See how that works. That frame definitely makes a difference. I could look at that for a little while. It's kind of fun just to break the ice and do some painting. And you could do 2 or 3 or 4 of those and just enjoy mixing color. So yeah, it's something I'm going to look at for a little while. Since that didn't take very long, let's make another painting on this 1/4-inch plywood panel. And we're going to see if we can be pretty quick with this. I was looking at paintings by Paul Resika the other day. He's a Hans Hofmann student. And I think he's still alive. He might be. If he is, he's definitely getting up there. And he would make these reflective type paintings. And I just always liked them. So we're going to go ahead and just grab some of this blue. Let's zoom in and check it out. And you can see I've washed it down with paint thinner. And I'll come up here and zoom in on this. And let's get some red. Go back down to the palette. I mean, this can be a lot of fun. And just, not everything has to be a finished work of art. So here's a little cadmium red. We'll take some of this yellow over here. It was on the other side of the palette. If you didn't see that, it's right there. So come back to that. Throw that in there. And we can sort of pretend that this is maybe a sea buoy or something out in the bay, and we'll put that right here. And then this will be the reflective part right here. Maybe it's a boat. And we'll grab some pure white. I don't think we have to bring the camera down onto the palette because I just pulled this white right off of the right off of the palette. I didn't mix it with anything. And maybe we'll grab a little black, and I'm doing the same thing, just pulling it right off the palette. And we'll go and now we'll get some more blue. Let's come down to the palette and mix something up. And it's really important to look at painters and see who you like. It's like, you know, if you're gonna get into music, you wanna listen to a lot of music. Same thing with painting. Even if it's paintings that you might not ever want to paint. Like I was watching a video on Winslow Homer, and wow, what a great painter. Almost, you know, it could be the thing, like you look at that and you're like, oh geez, I don't want to paint because this guy's so good. But, you know, everything's different. You can look at Winslow Homer, and then you can look at somebody like, I don't know, who's this guy I'm kind of copying right now, Paul Resika. They're both good painters, they're just very different. But it's still good to look at a lot of paintings. So we're going to grab this white, we'll bring it over to this blue. And I'm going to really wet my brush down with paint thinner and wash it in here. And I said it in the last video, or one of the videos, where yellow is the complementary color of blue. So you throw something that's primarily blue, a primarily blue painting, into a gold frame, and it's gonna stand out. It's really fun making these loose paintings. And maybe not even going all the way to the edge. You know, just like this. I don't want this to fall off. And maybe we just take a little of that red off the palette. I see it's on my brush there. I don't know what that does. If anything, maybe nothing good. I don't know. Okay, that's my compressor going on down in the wood shop. I don't know if you can hear that. Let's throw that in the frame and see what happens. I don't think I can convince myself that that's any good. Maybe, I don't know. Since we don't even care, let's do something else to it. Let's get some darker blues and go all the way to the edge. So I'm not gonna go into my paint drawer. I'm just gonna use what I have here on this blue. I think there's some cobalt, and this is ultramarine blue. There's a little in there underneath the skinned over paint. And we'll see, I don't really have that thing aimed right there. That's better. What do we got here? And we'll put this in there. I try not to get oil paint on my hands like that. It's kind of a pain because oil paint gets everywhere because it doesn't really dry quickly. So let's take this. Maybe we'll put another bit of color on top of that red. It's going to be hard to do that because the paint is so wet. But if we put it on thick enough, we might be able to get away with it. Maybe we'll try to use the knife. I don't know about that one. I have a feeling this is not going to work. I don't know. Let's just put it back in the frame again. Kind of want to throw some green in here, almost as if it's a green field before the ocean or before the sea. So why not do it? This is the kind of thing that if you wanted to wait around for the paint to dry, it would be easier. Let's go down to the palette and mix up a green. We'll take these, this and this. And maybe, can't really worry about screwing everything up because there's nothing really going on. But let's see if we can just take the palette knife. That is horrible. This whole thing's horrible. All right. Let's just see how it looks in the frame anyway, just for the fun of it. No, that's terrible. Holy cow. Let me see if I can. I'm like grasping at straws now. Let's throw it back in the frame. So the frame just gives a painting its own environment, so it's kind of nice to look at a painting in a frame. I don't know. I think, I mean, I would like to just kind of keep working this blue, but I think I'm going to quit because I got paint all over my hands, which is unusual, and I want to wash them. Let's just zoom in and see what that looks like. Actually, you know, it's kind of fun to look at. Just very, you know, childlike. All right, well, as you can see, not every painting session turns into a finished painting, and that's okay. That's kind of what it's all about. In fact, maybe I could put a frame on the inside over here, like it's an interior wall, and that's the seascape behind the wall or a window. You never know, but once you have some painting down, it's just, you know, it's breaking the ice. And I like to play around with a lot of different styles, a lot of different mediums and materials. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you try painting. Remember, just have fun with it. After you finish painting, go ahead and clean your palette like I am here. Otherwise, all that paint will get stuck to it. It's a good habit to get into. I'll bring this down so you can really see. Kind of builds up a really nice patina on the palette. And there you go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.